Hey everyone, in today's video we will be going over acrylic application. If you are a beginner, your main focus should start with the fundamentals of how to apply your acrylic. First step, choose your core system. This will be whatever touches the nail bed first. So your dehydrator, your primer, your monomer, and your clear. That should be the base of every set. Alright, first step is to do your natural nail prep. This is a very important step. This is going to ensure that your nails do not lift and they stay on. So here I'm just taking some alcohol just to loosen that skin up, and I'm going to take my tool and gently push the cuticles back. Now this is your eponychium. Your cuticles is attached to your eponychium and it's the dead skin. Now you have to get that dead skin off, because if it stays on, your acrylic is going to stick to that dead skin instead of sticking to your nail plate. So you want to push that back and release it so you can go in and remove it. And also you can see that I'm using my other finger as an anchor. This is very important too, because you'll come to learn anytime you're holding anything, your hand file, your e-file, your tools, you need the support of your other finger to help keep you steady. So here I'm going in with my cuticle bit, and I'm putting that cuticle bit parallel. I'm not using it as an angle. I'm using it parallel to the nail. And what I'll do is I'll start in the center and I'll work from one side to the other. So here I'm going to go to my right side, and I'm just going to ease that bit and let it do its job. You don't have to put any pressure, and I have my e-file on the lowest setting that it'll go. And so I'm just easing it around that cuticle in those sidewalls. And as I go to the sidewall, I'm going up. And the reason why I work from one side to the other is just to reduce the chance of causing any damage, hurting the client, and also it takes down the amount of skipping, because you have to be careful with these bits, they'll skip over. So here I am, I put my e-file in reverse and I'm just going to the other side. And if you notice that I'm not getting it all, I'm not worried about it. I'm just loosening it up because I'm also going to come in with my sanding band. So whatever remainder is left, I'll take it off with that. And here on my pinky, I heard it a couple of weeks ago, so that's why it looks so ratchet, so excuse that. Now here I'm going in with my sanding band, and as you can see, I took my hand file and I scored the edges. I also do this to my hand file, and what it does is it softens those edges so they won't be so sharp and you end up cutting your client. Now the reason why I do it with my sanding band is because it allows me to get further into that cuticle area and get all that dead skin off. Now your main focus when you come to using your sand band on the natural nail is to, yes, remove whatever dead skin is off of there, but to just remove the shine. So our fingers, our nail plates, they have a natural oil, and you want to remove that oil so that your acrylic has something to stick to. And how you do that is just by removing the shine. Now I did just soak these off, so I still have a little bit of acrylic left on them. So if you see me, going over it again, it's just to remove that excess. Now for every full set, I always start off and I file down my free edge. I personally do not like when my nails grow under my acrylic nails, so I'll take them down as short as possible, and it'll also help when you're applying your tips. So I'm just taking my cuticle nippers and I'm only taking off what's hanging over. If you leave any little bit, it can come in contact with your acrylic when you're applying it to your cuticle. Now, if you're not comfortable using those, here's a ball bit and it just basically buffs that skin off. Now, here's some tips I recommend. Now, when sizing your tips, you want them to fit from sidewall to sidewall. From the right side to the left side, that tip needs to fit on each end. You want them too big rather than too small, because you can always go in and file them into shape. All right, now that I have all those placed on and I have them in shape, I'm going to go in with my sanding band and just blend out that tip part. You want it to be blended from the artificial tip to your natural nail, and especially those sidewalls. If you end up leaving it, then when you apply your acrylic, it'll be just too bulky on those sides. Now I'll dust away, use my brush with alcohol, and brush away from the cuticles and just make sure there's no dust. So now I'm going to take my prep, my dehydrator, and I'm going to place it just on the nail plate. And I'm going to do that on all 5 fingers. Now with my primer, you see I dot off the excess onto a paper towel. If you don't do that, it'll just flood the nail plate and it'll go onto the skin. And you do not want this product touching the skin. And so here I'm going in with a second layer. To start my application, I'm going to apply a thin layer of the Mia Secret Clear, and this is just so when I do a fill, I can file back down to this clear base instead of soaking the whole nail off just to redesign it. So I'm going to use the 2-ball method, and I feel like it's easier to break it up into steps so that way you have control of the product and you're not rushing through the service. So I'm going to take my Young Nails Cover Pink, and I'm going to pick up my bead and dab off the excess liquid, and I'm going to start at the center of her nail, apply that bead, and then point the finger down. When you point it down, gravity naturally will pull that product down. So I'll just use the sides of my brush to guide that product down. Now I've already shaped the nails when I applied the tips, so think of it as coloring inside of the lines. You already have the shape that you want, so you're applying the acrylic to that shape. So now I'm just patting the product through, making sure that I'm tucking those sides in, making sure that I'm bringing the product down to the free edge. And when you have too much product, as you pat and you blend that product down, any excess will kind of tip over on that free edge, and then you just take the body of your brush and bump it up against it and it will just knock right off. Now acrylic naturally just cures, so you have minimal time before it does that. So while it's in this state, that's when you want to blend it and make sure that you have no bumps. So take your time, make sure that you're blending it and all your sides are tucked in, and make sure that your free edge is not too thick. So I just keep blending it, and as I'm blending it, that excess will just come off like I said. Now this is our second step in the application. I'll take my bead, place it right above the first bead, and I'm going to push the product just up to her cuticle. So I'm placing my brush behind the bead, and I'll work from the right side towards the middle and then to the opposite side. So I'm blending that product through, blending the bead through. And even though I'm applying this to be full coverage, this color, I'm not worried about building my apex right now. This is basically just my design layer. So nails have a structure that you need called an apex, and that's what's going to make sure that your nails do not break. And I'll come in after I've done all my design and I'll encapsulate with clear and make my apex. And to make it easier on yourself, try to get into a routine. So if you figure out something that is working for you, write it down, remember it, and do those steps over and over again. So when you start going through the process, it'll just naturally kick in and you don't have to think about it. And that way you'll become faster and you'll become better at applying that same technique. Now, my struggles were in my filing routine. I was taking way too long to file the nail, and what I was doing is I was trying to reshape it because my application wasn't right. So since I've been doing this 2-bead method, I've found that it's much easier when it comes to filing. I'm not having to do so much work. So the main thing you're looking for in the structure of your nail is the shape, the apex, and your cuticle application. Those are the most important things you need to worry about. So looking down the barrel of the nail, you can see that it's even from side to side. And then the side profile, it has a decrease to the tip, so it gets thinner as it goes to the tip. And remember, with the cuticle bead, it should be flush with your natural nail. So you shouldn't see the difference between the fake acrylic and your natural nail. It needs to be well blended. All right, guys, I know it's repetitive, but I'm going to walk you through the steps again. So take your first medium set bead, place it at the center of the nail, point the finger down, and use the belly of your brush to pat the product down. When you pat, you are making sure that it is full coverage. When you use the tip of your brush, you're blending. See how I did that with the tip of my brush? I'm blending that product back, blending it through. Use the body of your brush to make sure that your sides are clean and they're in the perimeter of the shape that you already made. When you come in with your cuticle bead, place it right above the first bead and then use the brush to push that product up right before you get to the skin. Then take it from side to side and blend it through the rest of the body. And I'm always blending through, always checking my sides, always make sure that her cuticle is free of product. And if you don't have enough, you can just take another small bead and place it where you need more. So now I'm going to encapsulate with clear, and I'm doing the same steps. I'm going to be using 2 beads to encapsulate, and every time I start off placing my bead at the center, more product is going to end up at that center piece. So I'm naturally building my apex without even having to go and add any extra product. By me placing those first beads at the center, I'm building up that apex naturally. And when you're doing your cuticle bead, make sure that finger is pointed down. That will make sure you do not get product into that cuticle area. So looking at my side profile, you can see my apex placement. So the cuticle is flush to the nail, so that's thin there. And then here is my apex. That's where the thickest part of my nail is. And then it slopes down evenly into the free edge. The free edge is thinned out. All right, after I've encapsulated, I will go in and make sure that I have my perimeter all nice and sharp. So I'll take my file, and I always want to look and make sure that I see the white part of that file. You see it there? That means that you are holding it straight. People struggle with shape, and I've always struggled with it too, but it's common stuff that you have to do that you notice you're not doing. Look at that file, make sure that you see that white strip. That's going to let you know that you have it straight. Make sure that you're holding the nail tight and stiff. Now I'm going underneath the nail and making sure that from the side wall to the free edge is completely straight. This is just an overview. I'll do a separate video when it comes to shaping. Gonna make it bounce. All right, this is the 3-in-1 fine bit. So I'll take this bit and I will run it behind the product. Same thing when you're applying it. You always go behind the product. That's what's going to smooth it out. A lot of times you think, oh, well, let me go on top of it to kind of smooth it out. No, ma'am. You go behind it. As you can see, I'm using the body of that bit when I'm filing the body of the nail. And I use the tip of the bit when I'm close to the cuticle. You want to think of the nail as being in zones also. So the cuticle is your first zone, the apex your second, and then the tip is your third. So you use your bit according to that. So when I'm going to the cuticle area, I will use zone 1 right there, and then through the body, I will go into zone 2, and then towards the tip is when I come through and I use that end portion of the bit. And to finish this application off, I'll take my sanding band and seal the cuticle area, and then I'll buff the free edge. Thank you guys for watching. I plan on doing a whole lot more videos that give more explanation on the how-to part. So subscribe, like, and comment, and follow me on Insta.